you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And looking forward to see you guys here in Brazil after so long. How excited are you to return to Brazil in such a special shows, opening a long-awaited tour?
It's gonna be awesome. I mean, I know the last time that me and Zachy went down there, and the first time we were there, we were at doing a I think it was Manifesto. Then we had an acoustic thing, and me and Zach were actually roommates at that point in time. So I remember being down in Brazil a lot from the very first time, and the other times have just been so much fun. I have actually on the wall behind me, if you see, Zach has his Savatage background, but I used the stuff that was actually in my studio. The one poster over there below the blue neon is from Brazil, and it has a couple tickets underneath it from the last time we were there with the Dead Winter Dead lineup in '98. So I love the Brazilian fans. I had so much fun the last time we played Monsters of Rock down there, so I can't wait to do it again.
And my situation is, as you know, guys, with Circle to Circle, I got to go another 7 times, more than Sabotage. So I have a great relationship with everybody down in Brazil. Over the years, I think I kind of stopped with them in 2015 or 2014 or something like that, was, or probably a little bit before that was the last time that I toured down there in Brazil. But it was good that Circle to Circle got to go a good, like 6 times actually in the life of the band. So we had a great time. Um, and I believe that those kind of things are special, to keep the relationship going and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to, getting back. I haven't had to wait as long as the other guys, but I feel like Brazil's sort of my second home as far as music is concerned outside of the United States. So obviously I'm going to have a great time.
That's amazing. And this edition of Monsters of Rock will be also special because it celebrates its 30th anniversary here in Brazil. And you'll be playing alongside Scorpions, Judas Priest, among other bands. I would especially like to know your relationship with these two main bands, Scorpions and Judas Priest, whether it's as fans or colleagues.
Well, I
Huge
mean,
thing.
Judas Priest, I actually got to meet when I was 12. I won a contest at a record store by me to win Judas Priest backstage passes and their full catalog at that time, which I didn't even know what a catalog was. A 12-year-old, I thought I was going to get like just buy Judas Priest t-shirts. I didn't realize the catalog meant all of their records in vinyl, but that's what I won. And I met them, and I remember I had a British Steel shirt I got from our local record store, and when I was backstage, their tour manager's like, "Where'd you get that?" He thought there was like a scalper on the street, and I told him it was from an actual commercial record store. But I remember meeting the band then, and KK Downing said, "What do you want to do when you get older?" I said, "I want to be like you." And in 2001, Savatage had a chance to tour Europe with Judas Priest, and it was always really fun to be. I was on the same side of the stage as KK, and he'd be watching and listening to me, and he was complaining about his guitar sound at one point. He was using, I think, a Rocktron processor at that point in time, and he was listening to me. He's like, "Man, I love your sound. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What am I doing? I'm doing what I learned from you when I bought Unleashed in the East. I got a Marshall and a freaking electric guitar. That's what I'm doing." But it was great. So I mean, I'm pretty good friends with Richie Faulkner now too. So I'm looking forward to actually doing a show with Savatage with Priest with Richie, because Richie's is so brilliant. He's definitely making me want to step myself up a notch, because he's got to go on after we play, and I don't want to suck. So it's I gotta make sure I get up there and do my best. He's a great guy. He's an amazing guitar player. So they're pretty good friends, the Priest guys. And actually, I had not seen Halford since I was a teenager, and I got to see him last year when I went to see Priest with Faulkner, and we talked for a very long time, and it was pretty cool because Rob Halford left the room and came back 10 minutes later with his phone to get a selfie of me and put a selfie of me and him on his Instagram, and I was like, all right, that's one of the coolest things that ever happened. So
That's cool. You got a lot closer relationship to them than I do. I'm just a huge fan of both bands. I haven't really had a chance to meet anybody in the band, I don't think, but I mean, let me see, my first Scorpions record was Love Drive. So I kind of got into them a little before the blackout craze when they really got huge, especially in America. The Blackout album was kind of the mark, but yeah, I'm just a huge fan of both bands. Chris knows I love Priest and I love the Scorpions. So it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing watching your mentors out there
we spent a lot of time. I think everybody spent a lot of time with Mickey D at some point, so it's like,
that's true. I forgot.
Mickey was out with Motorhead at so many festivals that I'd done before, he got into the Scorpions. I've seen him since he's been in the Scorpions. I have not seen him with the Scorpions or done shows with him yet there, but I did just see him 2 years ago in the summer. He was playing Ace of Spades and another song with Doro for her 40th anniversary, and Phil Campbell did we did what's that Love You in Black song, or what's the one that Doro, but we played with them. So I saw him then. I met the Schenker brothers in a bunch of different times. And Rudolph, I had just seen, the last time I saw Rudolph, he was seeing Trans-Siberian Orchestra in Europe. And there's a very funny story here because I mentioned Schenker brothers. Now, I have never seen Scorpions with Michael, because I don't even know if he did, how much live stuff he ever did when he was a little kid doing his stuff with them. But his brother's at the show, Rudolph's at the show, and our keyboard player for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Vitaly, God rest his soul, he's backstage, and he sees Rudolph, and he's got his mustache shaved, and he looks a lot like Michael when he's shaved. And he walks up to Rudolph, and he goes, "Michael, you're my favorite guitar player." And I'm like, that's Rudolph. It was just really funny. We all looked like, way to go, Vitaly. But yeah, I love that. Scorpions were always one of the greatest live bands that you saw. No matter when they played, where they played, they were just a phenomenal live band. I love Matthias's guitar playing. I don't think I've done a festival or a show with the Scorpions before. I mean, I've seen them a gazillion times and I've met them, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's amazing.
I met Mickey D one time. I forgot. I did with Motorhead when we were playing Grease with Circle to Circle. So I met Lemmy that night too. And I got to discuss about his guitar amp. Everybody thinks that he plays the bass. You know how he plays through the Marshalls? They think he turns it to 10. And then he plays bass through the guitar cab for the distortion. And I said, is it true that everybody said that he drilled a screw in there at 10 so nobody could turn it down? He drilled a screw in. I said, is the rumor true that you drilled a screw in there at 10 so nobody could turn it down? He goes, I got to admit, mate, I keep it at 8. So that was it. That's
all I know is I got a chance to. Savatage was doing Mind Over Matter in Austria, and we were playing right before Motorhead. And this is a pretty cool story because Savatage on the Power of the Night tour, before either me and Johnny were in the band, they opened for Motorhead, and they Phil Campbell came up to me after we played. They were watching me on the side of the stage, and him and Lemmy, they said to me in this quote, they said that we think the ghost of Chris Oliva lives inside you, and that they said only 11 people had ever played live on stage with Motorhead in the 35, I think it was 35 years of Motorhead at that point in time, and they wanted me to be the 12th. So they invited me up to play, what did I play? I played, what did I play? I played, all I know was the loudest thing I ever heard in my life. And it was so crazy. They were on stage arguing at each other about the monitors, and I couldn't even tell what was going on because everything was so loud. It was like, it was the most awesome thing ever. I remember going in the dressing room, grabbing my guitar and going over the song with Phil and getting ready to go. And Lemmy had, at that point in time, just opened up his second bottle of Jack Daniels. And it was amazing. So yeah, it was a pretty cool, little Savatage line by the Motorhead guys that I always felt really happy to hear.
That's amazing. Well, we imagine that the festival show will be shorter and focused on the classics, but what can we expect from the set list of the solo concert that you guys are going to do with Opeth opening?
Deep. It goes deep. And it's going to have stuff for how many decades?
4 decades.
I think we are getting into the 80s, 90s. Yeah. So, 4 decades worth of stuff or more. But yeah, we're going pretty deep with it. It's not, but I think you'll like it. I mean, even deep within the stuff that's, the records that Chris and I are on, or even with myself starting at Edge of Thorns, some deep tracks there, and plus some good old stuff. I think you're going to like it.
That's good to know. Thiago is going to ask you some questions.
All right, man. So when the Savatage reunion was announced, Chris said that the band would be taking one step at a time. So for now, in which steps the band right now? Have you guys already rehearsed full on?
Yes, we've had rehearsals already. We got the keyboard players that's coming along with us. Amazing. Takes the band to a whole new level.
2 keyboard players.
Yep, we got 2 more. Yeah, we got 2 keyboard players. So
we got for the entire tour?
Yeah, we got 2.
Johnny said it today, so we're not saying names. And they asked me what the names were. I said I could tell you 1,000 keyboard players. It's not.
Right.
I can't tell you anybody. But Johnny did mention that one of the guys is actually from Colombia. So not only do we have a keyboard player, we have an interpreter. So
okay.
Well,
good. Yeah,
he's Spanish. I think he speaks Spanish.
Yeah, but they could speak better than I can.
Not Portuguese.
Yeah, but they
okay.
speak
So
better
can
than
I
I
assume
can.
that any of these keyboard players is gonna sing John's part live?
I'm gonna handle all that stuff, but they are great vocalists. I'll tell you that. The situation vocally with the band is great right now because I'm having a great time because we've got more vocal stuff going on than we ever were able to do before. So now the vocal level of the band has taken a huge step forward, and it's the highest level ever. And Mr. Chris Caffery there is singing very well, and he's doing his part. And so we got 2 great new singers who are also keyboard players, but also
I think my dog just heard.
Got Al, myself, Johnny's putting in a few things there. Chris is singing a lot, even more than ever. We got a lot more. I'm loving it, man. We got a lot of good vocal stuff going on. And so until John gets back, I'm just handling the main load of the lead vocal.
What the new event that happened is when there was a lot of times when the 2 lead vocals would sing together, in parts, and that's what they will be doing with John. Plus, when you have 5-point counterpoint stuff, you have all those parts get harmonized, and when we had all 5 parts going, we never really had a chance to get the harmonies too. So we're going to be able to mix and match harmonies moving along, and with the keyboard situation, once the keyboard started coming into play, there was always piano parts and string parts. Even with Prelude to Madness, it was a mixture of orchestration. And then when you got into Temptation Revelation, it was piano in the orchestration. And then, of course, that kept moving on as we went further into the records when things got deeper. And like I said, when we added songs like Chance, the vocals, harmonies not only got bigger, but the amount of parts got bigger. And our goal is to try to be as close to the record as possible without using anything other than ourselves. So we got a really good lineup going. Of course, we want John to be there, and I think him not being there is going to be inspirational for him to get back into play. He's going to be at all rehearsals. He's, a big part of choosing the set list. It was his decision to say, okay, and go play. I mean, it's still John Oliva's, still Savatage as far as, when TSO played, we toured for 25 years and out of them 15 of the, or was it 17 of the years we were touring, Paul O'Neill was alive, but Paul O'Neill was not in the touring band. It was still Paul O'Neill's Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And you know, just because Paul wasn't there at the live shows, he would show up and play some songs here and there when he could, but there was always a Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert going on somewhere without Paul, and it was still TSO. I mean, we're looking forward to getting out there and seeing all the fans who had seen us and all the ones that never have, and you know, in the future, I have a lot of faith in the Mountain King. And I also said, everybody says, I keep correcting reunion, because it's like we never actually broke up. You know, the band, we just stopped playing. I said, it's like, you remember Austin Powers? You know, when they froze him cryogenically? It's like, I was cryogenically frozen, and I was like, for like 20 years. And then they finally just melted it now. And now I'm like,
Did you guys expect it to be 20 years if the band frozen, like I said?
No, I didn't expect it to be more than 20 days, actually. But you know what? Things happen. I sat waiting patiently. When you listen to my solo records, you can hear songs like Abandon, that was written particularly about that. I was waiting to do the record following Poets and Madmen, you know. And when people ask me what, eventually, when I, you know, determined that, yeah, I guess this is going to take a very long time, when people were asking me what was going to happen, I was like, look, I want Savatage to play as much as anybody. I don't have your answers right now. When it does, I will be there. I will do Savatage before anything else musically in my life, always. So not that I had to drop anything to do this, but when I got the call to do it, I actually seriously started crying on the phone. You know, it was like something I've been waiting for over 20 years. I know we did Wacken, but it was just such an important part of my life, and I'm glad it's back.
It was a focus thing all those years, you know, especially since 2015, because we played Wacken with TSO. So it was like Savatage, TSO, and we kind of thought things were going to take off at that point. And then the focus continued to be, a lot of people don't understand how big TSO is in the United States. It's like the biggest arena show, period, for 20 years running. So if you're not here in the United States, you're not seeing that whole machine, you're not really understanding quite the capacity of that, which is immense.
I mean, plus Paul.
And also, when we lost Paul,
also
like, in 2017, after we had the reunion and we were going to be picking it back up, then Paul O'Neill passed away, and that made it really hard for us, and as well as the focus being on the ever-changing show of TSO.
And the rhinovirus hit in 2020.
Yep, coronavirus in 2020, another derailment, and also the fact that, you know,
John had a little bit of medical. It was like all these little bumps in the road. But
yeah, we had a bunch of little bumps.
The funny thing about John's bump in the road, and I really believe this is to be true in a lot of ways, he did a Rock Hard interview for Greece, Rock Hard magazine in Greece. I believe it was either 2001 or 2, but he'd mentioned that he wanted to do one more Savatage record. And at that point in time, you know, we had not really even spoken to John about it. So I was getting people going, oh, it's great to see Savatage back. But I was looking at it on the internet, and it was everywhere. And I think that attention that interview got into the promoters around the world, and all of us started getting individual messages. Hey, are you guys playing? You want to do this and that? And our agents, our manager, and I think it just kind of, when the management called us last year to say, hey, we want to have a Savatage conference call, we had no idea what they were going to ask us about, but they said, we have a lot of really good festival offers, and are you guys interested? And the first ones were Monsters of Rock. So you guys, I believe down there, were the first ones that really, you know, set the spark going. And I think it was just time, you know. It was 10 years since we did Wacken. It's like 10 years went by like that. You know, 23 years went by since the last tour, 24 years since we were in Brazil the last time. It's like, that's, you know, a quarter of a century just goes by like that. And I don't want another quarter of a century to go by. You know, I'll be, here we go, Savatage. It's coming out. You're pushing me out on stage.
Another strange thing that people don't think about is we've been working the entire time. We've been working in TSO, which takes a lot of effort. And this thing is, it's so strange to see Savatage working all the time within that realm and not being able to break off and be the original band that I call the foundation. Savatage is the foundation of TSO. So it's great to have the foundation kicking off again. And it's a completely separate entity in a wild way, even though it's definitely an integral part. You got all the guys in Savatage up there playing in TSO, but I'm just so happy we were able to break away and do this separately. It's just, you know, so good.
So, keeping on that subject about TSO, especially for you, Zak, because you had left Savatage a little bit before the recording of Poets and Madmen, and you didn't do that tour. So how for you it was this process of reconnecting with the guys, with the management, to become part of TSO and again in Savatage?
Well, when it came to the first couple of I was there pretty much from the beginning of TSO, because even on the first TSO record, I'm singing on that. It was background vocals, but almost every album I'm singing there. And in 2000, you know, the Beethoven's Last Night, singing the song called The Dark. So it's like, when you look at the history of it, I really never went anywhere. I just took time off from my family and stuff. You know, I had two little, very young baby girls who, by the way, my girls are now 27 years old and 22.
You know, the funny things about that, let's listen
I'll talk about time flying.
Now here, Paul wanted to get Zak back into Savatage always. And when Zak was doing Circle to Circle, now me and John helped Zak with his first, I did at least, with his first two records. I know John, I think he did the first two as well.
Yes.
And when Zak was going to do his Circle to Circle tours, there was an opening for somebody to play guitar in the band. And when I went to go do it, Paul didn't want me to. And his reason being was that he didn't want to place me. He says, I don't want you going out on the road with the singer in Savatage. Because, you know, intentions being that we were going to do another Savatage record. So in my head, I was always waiting. Like every year I was going to get that.
Yeah.
Frozen. But waiting for that phone call to come out of the ice block. You know, freaking Austin Powers.
Carbonite.
And then finally last year, it was like, you know, begin
Star Wars.
I just picture him standing there in the urinal. No, it's like I'm waiting.
Yeah, and then years go on and on and on with that. You know, so it was like, wow, man, what in the world? So
evacuation.
So the intention was there. In other words, it just took a very long time to come around.
John has said in a press conference that Igor took part in that Morphine Child was a song that you guys was supposed to be on the set list, and it's a song of Poets and Madmen, an album that Zak didn't sing on the album, but he did all the preparing for that album, if I remember correctly. Did you guys actually came to rehearse it, or if so, how it was for Zak to come and sing finally this song to be shown to the public, or if not, do you have any recollection working on that song during those days?
Well, I mean, yeah. I remember when that song was written, and there's a couple funny things. It's like I wrote to the main riff and the intros and those things, and we pieced it all together. And John had written musical parts and then other ones. And I have a really funny story. I'll finish my music side of it, and then I'll let you guys talk to Zak about his situation. But the only piece of that song that was missing was the solo section. And I remember we were living in Astoria, New York, and one evening I just happened to wind up inside a gentleman's club. And there was a song that was, there was a lot of people from South America in Astoria, New York. There's a lot of Brazilian people there. And there was these Brazilian dancers, and they had like this song in there had this thing going on, and the beat and everything was going like, and that riff stayed in my head all night long after I realized that I should not be in such a evil place and left. I left the strip bar, went home and went to my guitar, and I added that solo section to the song from that inspiration from whatever song that was that the DJ was playing there at that time. And then the very end of the song, the guitar riff going ba-da-da-da-da-da-dun was written exactly that way, with Paul O'Neill sitting there going to me, "You got to put an end on it." Like, what? He goes, "Go ba-da-da-da-da-da-da." And that's exactly how the end was played and written, was by Paul, because Paul would sing you riffs and it would come out, and that's how it was done. And that song was pieced together. And I got to tell you, he changed. Back at that time, we were recording in 2-inch. It wasn't digital. A very long song. I was doing 4 rhythm guitar tracks for Poets. So I had 2 with my Randy Rhoads, Sunburst Randy Rhoads, and I had 2 with the Blue Gargoyle. And they were always doubled. He changed the tempo on that song 3 times, and I had to redo all those guitars those extra times. And if you listen to the riff, there's little clicks in between the way the riff is played that they're never the same. And we had to do it in little pieces. It took me a couple days to do, because it was like literally at that length of a song doing 4 rhythm tracks for each, doing it 3 times. It was like over an album worth of rhythm guitars just for that song, but it came out really good, and I'll let Zach continue. So I just wanted to give you my Morphine Child story.
Well, mine is pretty quick. We were up there about 2 or 3 weeks. See, all right, yeah, you know how that goes. We're up there about 2 or 3 weeks initially, so I was hearing skeletons of each song. You know what I mean? Like, and me and John were kind of trying to decide which songs we were going to sing, because on that record it was going to be John singing half of them and me singing half of them. So I didn't have as much responsibility, but I wanted to kind of try to figure out which songs were going to be mine. But then we took a little break, and I had already been thinking about, oh man, I need a break. I think it'd be a good time with the baby being there and Cassidy. And I just called him, and we had already been talking about the fact that I might have to take a break. So I said, you know what, guy, I made the final decision at that point. It was just a break that we took, and then I said, I'll just step back. We had been working on TSO since 96. So this is now 99. So, I mean, I'm enjoying working on the TSO record. So I was like, okay, so it was never a thing. I just needed to take a little break at that time, just a life event. So that was really all it was going to be. But you could see the writing on the wall with the focus kind of shifting to TSO and the success. It was having really quick and massive success in the United States, which was overwhelming everybody, especially Paul O'Neill, trying to handle, when you get that much success, well, you got to handle it. He's the guy in charge. He's the producer. So, all of that kind of coming together kind of led to that break, but I, never the intention was to stay away too long. And Paul had just had his first baby as well. His daughter, who's only about 5 months difference in age than my oldest kid. We had our kids at the same time. So he definitely understood the responsibility. So that's really just kind of the way it went down. It had already been talked about, and it wasn't that big of a crisis. But and just stay. And then of course, a few years later, we get Circle to Circle, because Savatage kind of was starting to take a little bit of a backseat TSO at the time. Me, Chris, and John were looking for a musical outlet to keep rocking or whatever, make more, metal songs. So Circle to Circle became that medium. And that's how we started working on that.
Yeah. Going a little bit back in time, since you're digging deep here, what memories do you have of coming to Brazil to play at Monsters of Rock in 1998? I mean, you were playing here 6 months before the festival in another tour, and then you came back. How was it for you guys?
Well, that festival was amazing, and it's pretty funny. I just had spoken to somebody earlier, and I mentioned a couple little memories about that. And one in particular was we were on stage and MTV was filming that, and they were following me the entire show with the camera. It was following me around the stage, following me around the stage, and I was like, this camera won't leave me alone. And Joey DeMeo and Eric from Manowar were watching on the side of the stage. So I went over to Joey and I said, I'm going to kill this camera. You know, like, kill. So the camera goes up, and I don't know what I was thinking. I threw my guitar, one of my guitars, at the camera, just thinking I was going to smash it or whatever and then catch it. The guitar strap catches the camera and starts heading towards the crowd, and I'm like, oh no. And then the guitar falls on the monitors right before it got off the stage. Didn't crack, thank God. I think it fell on the point at the end of the Rhodes. I think it was a Rhodes that I threw. And I just remember looking and seeing Joey DeMaio going, that's so metal. Yeah, like he thought it was like the most metal thing that he'd ever seen in his life, that I just, you know, tried to kill the MTV camera and my guitar got caught and collapsed. And another freaking really ironic thing about this being the last time this lineup had played in Brazil was that show actually had a lot to do with the first time that lineup did have some separation done, because I remember being at the hotel bar later that night and I'm looking at a table and I see Al sitting there with Mustaine and Jimmy DeGrasso, and I knew Derek Sherinian for a long time because he was a friend of Al's, and I said to Derek, I'm like, that's an odd couple. You know, and I saw them sitting there and Marty Friedman was there and all those people were talking, and then just coincidentally, a couple months later, I got a call from Al telling me that he was going to be leaving to go in with Megadeth. And so, you know, in full circle to circle, we're going back. Probably one of our first festival offers was from Monsters of Rock, and we're going back there with Al. And, you know, hopefully, I definitely know that at this point in time, none of us are going anywhere. So it's like, we're going to be happy to be back there. We had a great time the last time, and I always love playing down there. The fans are so amazing. And I know how much the ones who've seen us then have been waiting, but I also know that there's a whole new generation that's waiting to see us for the first time. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It was pretty much indescribable for me, but you know, you think about those situations when people, you know, that are not in the music business or my friends and stuff like that go, like, how do you even know, how do you react to something like that with that crowd being like that and everything? But I just remember being very peaceful, because that's that's the way I was made to live, was in front of crowds like that, you know, and the people are so great, and Brazil is the greatest. And the love coming from the crowd and just that emotion, you can just feel the waves of love coming from the people, you know, and it's very peaceful to me. I just remember it being surreal, but yet it's exactly what I live for. You know what I mean? That's when I feel my best. When I am in that situation, it brings me great peace.
And when I played that show, I think I was wearing like a pair of like overalls with suspenders. So it's like I'm on a goal to get back to the same weight that I was in 1998 too. So I'm not eating very much lately. Like, I'm gonna get back to suspenders diet. Your mission, Jim, if you should decide to accept it.
Well, for my last question, since we have only 4 minutes, a quick last question. John told journalists in a press conference that he's still writing for a new album. Have you heard it yet? Have you started recording? Is it still on the demo stage? How is it going so far?
We got a lot of great material, and as a matter of fact, right now, John's still writing songs every day. So some of the stuff the 20 songs that we've already heard, they're getting replaced because we kind of beat that. We talk about, hey, can you beat this? Is this better? He's getting some stuff out right now that's a little better, so it's kind of replacing some of the original songs. The greatest thing, there's about 3 or 4 of them that I really, really love. And the best thing that I'm feeling about it is, in all those Savatage records where I sang and John sang, we never got to do a duet. Well, that's going to be changing because some of my favorite songs out of the whole new crop of songs are duets finally between me and John. Finally get a duet where we sing on the same song and we're going back and forth. And it's going to be bringing out a whole lot of different perspective about the way we can approach the song, the different emotions coming from each of us being different, the way we are different, and seeing, the way we're kind of the same as well. But yeah, finally some good duets. What do you got, Chris?
Well, I know that I've heard a lot of music, and I've been working on some stuff with John too. And I know he had mentioned to some people that he wanted to have the last record for Savatage and call it Curtain Call. But I keep telling everybody that if I was to gamble, that this would be the first last record.
He already said in that press conference that it's not going to be the last one.
I have a feeling it will be the first last record. And it's not bad. It's not like when you do your last tour or final tour, you come back and that's kind of, I feel, a way of ripping the fans off because you actually made them think that. If we say it's the last record and we still put out one that's all new music, you're not really taking their money from everything they had already gotten because they hadn't gotten it. So you could do a second last record and a third last record, and it's not the same as 3 final tours. And that's what I have to say. That's what I have to say about it. So
John also mentioned that it might have to be a double CD because there's so much material. So that's still a possibility too. So when the mentor talks, I listen.